Hi guys, Marshall here, and this is today's Q&A. So if you get on, you've got a question you want to ask, just post it in the comments. I'll respond to it there. I'm going to start off with the two posts we got on today's Q&A post. First from Katrina and then Yvette. Okay, so Katrina asks, can you talk about the negative effects of the codependent behaviors of adapting and people-pleasing upon internal congruency? All right. That question has some terms in I want to define before we get into the answer. Number one, adaptation. Codependency is a coping mechanism. It's not an identity, and it is not a disease. It is how we adapted to a toxic environment, specifically an environment where we did not have access to free, genuine love. In other words, we had to earn love, and you can't really earn love, but we had to earn those little table scraps of love and compensate by changing ourselves to what they wanted. And that's where the pleasing comes in. Pleasing is and fixing are elements of trying to mold ourselves. Well, pleasing is molding ourselves to someone else's expectations, and fixing is trying to get them to accept us in some way, or even change them in some way so that they'll be more compatible with what we want. So the negative effects of that. Now I'm going to define internal congruency because Karina is participating in the brilliance of you, and there's a concept called congruency in this, and congruency means alignment, and you can tell what you're congruent or in alignment with based on your behaviors and your actions and your results, right? So the things you choose and the results you get indicate what you're congruent with internally. And if you've got what's called conflict or incongruence, this is where you ask for one thing, you get another. That's where you have interference going on and some sort of internal conflict or sabotage happening because you have an internal priority that contradicts or is in conflict with the external desire. So having defined that, the negative effects of codependent behavior, what codependency creates complete incongruency or disalignment with ourselves. And so that lack of alignment puts us in harmony with things that are unaligned for us. This is why we get toxic relationships. This is why we have outcomes we don't like. This is where we get stuck in patterns of dysfunction, whether it's financially, emotionally, relationally, it could be in pretty much any area of your life, because we're out of harmony with what is genuine for us. See, and that's the point here with the Brilliance of You program, is it connects us back to us so that we can move into harmony, then we get different results we want. So that's the biggest negative effect of codependency, is it just completely misaligns you with who you really are, and that's where the misery comes from. When we're trying to please someone and fit into their paradigm, or try to fix someone and get them to fit into ours, we get stuck. We will never find happiness or love there because happiness and love are not congruent with that. So, I'm going to make a little plug here. If you really want to get congruent with the big things you want in your life, join the Brilliance of You. And I'll post a link in the comments when we're done here so you can check that out. That program works really, really well. It's a beta program. It's a pilot program. So we're going to be doing 4 experiments over 4 90-day periods to get you aligned and get you into some excitement in your life. But that's how it works, Karina. The negative effects are depression, anxiety, doing things you don't want to do, emptiness, loneliness, bad relationships, what I call bare minimum relationships, and we'll be discussing that in the dating workshop that starts next week. Bare minimum relationships, they're nice to me. They treat me better than the previous dude or gal, right? No, that's not why we would, that's not a reason to date somebody. It's not a reason to have a relationship with anybody. And so we'll be addressing that in that. It's one of the negative effects, poor financial performance and health. Another one, physical health can really, really be impacted by that. I think it's Clarice. I don't remember. We had a member post a link on that. So yeah, your life will suck because you're not in alignment with your own genuine happiness. So that's what codependency really does. It skews us off of ourselves because we're the problem, right? We're the shameful being. We're the issue in our minds. And that's what codependency says. I'm flawed. I'm unlovable. I must change to get love. Well, automatically we're out of congruency with ourselves, so we're really out of alignment with real love for ourselves, and people, places, and things that naturally bring it to us. So that's the impact of it. So Yvette brings up talking about holding on to things around her ex-narc. That question is probably, your question about what to do there, is probably better answered by a legal authority. I would check with a lawyer on that one, just in case there's something you need to retain there, because it sounds like you have some pretty important documents. Now, you touch on a concept that's really important. I wasn't crazy. Guys, you're not crazy. You never were. They are. And when they can make you doubt yourself, then they can influence you. That's why the crazy making happens. It's all about getting you to question you, rather than, as your badass self would do, is question them. Question the context, question the circumstance, but don't question yourself. Okay? And if you feel really crazy, the Sane Maker can help you out there. Okay? That is a process that helps you validate your experience. Another thing that happens with crazy making is people step in here and they go, well, that's not how I remember it. You're remembering that wrong. That didn't really happen. And it's really important to sit back and say, I understand you have a different point of view on this, but this is my experience. This is what I felt, and that is valid too. If we get out of the game of being right and wrong, crazy making cannot work. If we go to the game of I stand with my understanding, this is what happened to me and that matters to me, and that has to be understood and respected before anything else can happen, then you win. But if we start getting into the world of right and wrong, this is where the crazy start. Well, you're wrong about that. You're not remembering that right. No. Now, it doesn't matter at that point, because like, for instance, in healthy conflict, it's not about I'm right, you're wrong. It's more like, I care about how you feel, so I see that my choice impacted you. You feel hurt because I made this choice. And I want to understand, and now I want to understand where you're coming from. Why did that choice hurt? What can I do that would help it? Help correct this? Or what understanding is needed? So maybe a shift in your understanding will make it less hurtful or not hurtful at all, because you have a better context behind it. But compassionate people, loving, empathic people are going to create understanding. They want understanding. Now, that doesn't mean agreement. It just means what it is. Understand. It's like, oh, I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with what your choice is or what you're choosing, but at least I can understand it. So understanding is not about agreement. It's not about getting people to say yes to the same thing. It is about going, oh, I see where you're coming from. Now we can discuss the circumstance a little more effectively to see if we can either build a bridge between our differences or create more empathy, or we can set aside the conflict. It's really contextual about what would happen next, but that's the trick. People who don't want to understand where you're coming from are people you want to be very careful with, because they're not really interested in your well-being. They're interested in their well-being, their rightness most of the time. And a lot of times when we get into conflict, we'll escalate right into rightness and wrongness. And then we've got what shows up is called contempt, criticism, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And that's the end of a relationship if that's persistent. Okay. So you have to step back, move towards understanding. So, yep, you're not crazy. Stick with your understanding. It's valid. Just valid. You do not have to prove or justify it. You need to believe yourself, trust yourself, and stand with it. Okay. So let's see. Okay, yeah. So just a little promo at the end here. We've got the dating class that starts on Tuesday. You can sign up for that. The link's in the group. We've got in 2 weeks, the Heal mentorship group starts. You can join that right now. I have 2 seats left for $500. That's a steal, guys. That's a steal because they bump up to $750 after those sell out, and then goes to $1,000. So jump in on that. Take action. If money's an issue, reach out. I'm always willing to work with that because I want change. I want you guys to have results. And then the Brilliance of You starts on Monday. That's $1,000. You can jump in on that as well. It's a year-long course, so you're getting a whole lot for a whole little. But that's really about transformation. That's post-codependency stuff. That's reshaping your world for what you want. Okay, thank you guys for being a part of the group. Please continue to ask questions, engage, share your stories. I invite you to be a part of that. If you're a lurker, I get it. A lot of times we're skeptical. We don't want to put it out there. We feel shame. We feel scared of being judged. Realize we're in a community that has one very active observation. My assistant and I, we keep an eye on this group. We want it to be a safe place. We remove people who are unsafe. We promote people who are safe. Number 2, you're in a group of people who are just like you. And if you want to really put a dent in your shame and your fear, share your story and find out how not alone you are and how not abnormal you are. Put it out there and get connected. Okay, if you guys have any other questions, just share them in the group and I'll get you answers. Thank you again for showing up. And remember that you're worth knowing, you're worth loving, and you're worth keeping. We'll talk with you guys next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.